Reform University ban. Good morning, I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching as always, it is appreciated. Universities around the UK are looking to deplatform Reform UK and specifically debating societies within that. And there seems to be a bit of a clash here between freedom of expression and freedom of association, which is what I want to get into here. This is from Bangor University in Wales, so I'm going to read this out to you now. The Debating and Political Society has received a request from Jack Anderton and Sarah Pochin, my MP, of Reform UK, to attend Bangor University and give a Q&A to students. In line with our values, this request was refused. We stand by this decision as a committee. We have a zero-tolerance approach to any form of racism, transphobia or homophobia displayed by members of Reform UK, in their view, I may add. Their approach to the lives of others is antithetical to the values of welcoming free and fair debate in our society that has been upheld for 177 years. We are proud to be the first of the debating unions to take this stance against Reform UK. We strongly implore fellow union societies to join us and keep the hate out of our universities. A few things on that. What they're saying that Reform UK is guilty of, I don't actually think they are guilty of, not in the slightest. I don't think so at all. I don't think they'll be getting such a free ride off the mainstream media, legacy media, if that was the case. First of all, transphobia, was that really a thing 177 years ago? I think not. And homophobia, again, I don't actually think it was defined as that back then, because homosexuality in the United Kingdom was outlawed. It was actually illegal until the late 1960s, I believe. So again, they're on very, very thin ice. This is a scare tactic. People are trying to scare people. They throw out these blanket phrases like transphobia, racism to shut down debate. If anybody is secure in their worldview and they are secure in their reasoning behind their worldview, they should be able to debate anybody under the table. Me personally, I'd be a pretty good debater.
If so powerful you are, why leave?
In fact, I'm so confident in my worldview that I could probably take the opposite argument and debate that successfully. I think that would be the mark of a good debater, where you can take the opposition's argument, make it your own, and sell it as if you believe it. But I digress. We move on. Then we have this statement from Zia Yusuf from Reform UK. I've written to the Vice-Chancellor of Bangor University, informing him that barring Reform from speaking at his university is unlawful. They must apologise to Sarah Pochin and ensure she's able to speak there. Two things. Again, it's sort of muddy. I agree that Reform UK should be able to debate there, and I agree with Zia Yusuf wholeheartedly with this, in the spirit of an open discourse and a free and open society. Anything short of incitement should be open season. Universities should be teaching their students these values, not indoctrinating them to a particular worldview. So when they have something that they find problematic or challenging or scary, they have to shut it down because they can't actually compute what the opposite side is saying without screeching. There's been recent attacks on people who are trying to debate in universities openly, and they get assaulted by the left, they get attacked by the left, and the police show up and the police arrest the person who's done nothing wrong. This is happening in the UK, and the police's response to this was, well, you should have anticipated this would have happened, so really it's your fault. So essentially victim blaming, this is what the police do. Zia Yusuf makes a very good point. Reform UK are likely to be, or they're going to be the largest party in Wales after the Senate elections. So by saying that you're not going to platform the either likely governing party or the largest party in Wales is really dumb and short-sighted. Zia Yusuf said that Bangor receives 30 million in state funding, that's Bangor University, much of which comes from Reform voting taxpayers. Agreed with that, I'm sure they won't mind Bangor University losing every penny of state funding under a reform government. After all, they wouldn't want a racist money, now would they? Again, that's a very good point. I want to pause on the scenario in Wales because this isn't specifically in Wales. This is a UK-wide issue that the leftists and the demented communists tend to have. Now, Bridget Phillipson is the Education Secretary. Education is devolved in Wales, but she is in charge of it in England. Now, there was a bill that went through Parliament under the last Conservative government that was designed to safeguard free speech in universities, but she paused the rollout of this when Labour came into power. Let's just see. Bridget Phillipson, as the Education Secretary, did pause the rollout of the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act 2023, which had passed under the last Tory government to protect free speech on university campuses. The pause was announced in July 2024, just days before the act was set to take effect on August 2024. Phillipson cited reasons for the concerns that the legislation was burdensome, not fit for purpose, and could expose students to harm or hate speech without adequately addressing those risks. In January 25, following a backlash from academics and campaigners, the government partially reversed the course by committing to implementing key provisions of the Act for free speech violations while repealing others deemed largely burdensome. However, as of today, it's not been rolled out. I think this is a deliberate ploy by the Labour Party they don't want to harm their voter base, and they don't want ideas or opinions that fly in the face of what the communists in the Labour government are actually doing to be debated openly, because their arguments are just that weak. Now, thankfully, some of the youngsters in Reform UK they're speaking up against it. So I'm going to play this clip that happened on GB News on the weekend. So I'm going to play this clip now.
From speaking, or at least there's been some quotes about the reform being far right, Islamophobic, as homophobic. What on earth is going on in our universities, and what's your response to those claims?
Well, like I've said many, many times, Alex, is that universities across the country are conveyor belts for communists, and it is appalling to see. You know, when I was at Warwick Uni, I got invited by the PPE Society, and some student swore at me, ran down the aisle of the lecture theatre, leaped over to try and assault me. Luckily, the security guards and the community safety team were there, but it just goes to show that these lefty loonies that are in our universities are very, very dangerous people. And do you know what? The people that were there were clapping and applauding that behaviour.
Because this is what the leftists do. They can look at Reform UK and say, they're bad, they're evil, they're racist, so in their mind they're morally justified in using violence against people they disagree with. This is the difference between the left and the right. The right seldom resorts to violence. Me personally, I will always choose a debate over a fight because my arguments are just that strong. I'm very, very confident I can win a debate. I don't need to resort to fisticuffs. But the left don't see it that way. Just look at what happened to poor Charlie Kirk in America, for example. They have no debating skills. They've not been taught how to actually think creatively or critically think of anything. They're indoctrinated to a particular worldview, and if you challenge that in any meaningful way, they have to ban you, they have to deplatform you, they have to no-name you. And the universities are not entirely innocent in this either. When Tony Blair came in 1997 and started making tuition fees chargeable, in England at least, what he did is he turned the universities into businesses, and they're going to appease what the paying customers want, or at least a proportion of the paying customer wants, because they want that conveyor belt, they want that cash cow. So the entire university system needs an overhaul. Agree? Disagree? Comment below, do all that good stuff, and we'll continue with the video.
That's the problem here, and I think half the universities should go. That would probably solve a lot of our problems in our education system.
Yeah, George, it is worrying when we see what should be the home of free speech debate and discussion turning into, like, this sort of proto-fascist almost in that sort of sense, where they want to shut down free speech that doesn't agree with them. How on earth has this happened? Why do you think so many young people are engaging in this kind of behaviour and universities aren't stepping in to sort their unions out, which a lot of the time they paid for, by the way, to rectify the situation? And we, of course, Labour blocked a legislation on free speech at universities when it got into office. What on earth is going on here?
Well, for example, I was on the phone to the police today. They phoned me about this incident, and they informed me that people were saying things like, I hope George is Kirkified, implying that they want to assassinate me. And these are students. And quite frankly, these students have not lived to see tough decisions. Families out there like in Bedworth, like in my town, there's decisions that you have to, whether the kids are fed or the heating's turned on. Those decisions, it's so hard to make. And these uni students are so lax. They're in their environment. They're on a jolly. They don't even turn up to half of the lectures. And they can sit there and attack me, who's actually trying to make a difference, who is leading an authority, trying to change the whole county. And they're sat there moaning. I think that it's too long that these champagne socialists have got their way. They've infected our universities. Universities are meant to be freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But the problem is that the lecturers are agreeing with them and allowing them to continue this dangerous rhetoric that is supported by the Greens and Labour, like they did last summer.
The issue is, and this is a dereliction of duty by the right in general, the right didn't safeguard our institutions. The right, after World War II, the boomers, Gen X, the millennials, they all went off into the private sector and made a shit ton of money. What that meant is that the liberals, the wets, they went into the universities, they went into all of the institutions and wokeified them. And this is where it leads. I think 90% of university academics are left-leaning. That's a structural imbalance. So when you've got a structural imbalance like that, things like this will happen. The only way I can see reversing this is cutting tuition fees, making it go back to the pre-1997 period where you entered university on a government grant if you were especially gifted. And maybe we can start to reverse some of the slow creep of the institutions to the left. We can retake it, and we can actually reverse it to go the opposite direction, but it will take support and dedication from people, right-minded people, to basically reverse what's actually happened. That would be my solution.
Calling us fascists and racists. And this creates this problem. Now, it is down to the universities to hold them to account. I know that the universities have got very little power over the union, the societies, but they have to hold them to account. But guess what? It's not scaring me. It's water off a duck's back. Unfortunately, it's an occupational hazard.
So we'll leave that one there, but that's George Finch, or Fitch. I think he's only 18 years old, and he's running a county authority down in Warwickshire, I believe. But yeah, hats off to him. We need more people like this in governments, both locally and in central governments, people who are in it for the right reasons. We'll end this here. So, do you agree with my position that we do need to retake the institutions in this United Kingdom? The slow march of the left through the institutions needs to be reversed, and it needs to be slowed down. In addition to that, the people that protest reform to say they're the big bad, they're evil, they're racist, they're misunderstanding something. Reform is a fact of life now. They are inevitable, in my view. And they are the least of it. They are the least of the left liberal wets' worries. What's coming down the pipeline after Reform UK should terrify them to their very soul. Anyway, these are just my thoughts. Comment below as always, like and subscribe, do that brilliant stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.